Hi, so we are the Ocean Acidification Group for Section AL. I'm Ava.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Yikai Wang.
And I'm Hao Zhengwang.
And I'm Ainsley, and our poster is called Climate Change and the Tropics. We first wanted to start by introducing both the concepts of ocean acidification and coral bleaching. So ocean acidification is the process by which absorbed CO2 from the atmosphere is converted to carbonic acid in the ocean, which disrupts the natural pH levels. And this is extremely dangerous for marine ecosystems for a multitude of reasons that will be introduced later. And coral bleaching is the process by which corals die because of the warming from the atmosphere, which is driven by excess carbon dioxide. And when the temperature exceeds this comfortable limit for the coral, the algae is forced out and its color is lost. And this is the first stage of death for coral and a detrimental loss of ocean life.
All right, so below that, we have a little diagram that's kind of explaining the science behind coral bleaching and why it happens, and then also why ocean acidification is dangerous for a lot of species. So as excess carbon dioxide is dissolved into water, it creates carbonic acid, which is then broken into hydrogen ions and carbonate ions. And those eventually combine to form bicarbonate, which makes it almost impossible for calcium carbonate to be formed, which is what's needed for a lot of mollusks and other animals that have shells. So we also talked about the community impacts of ocean acidification and coral bleaching. So for Hawaii, there's decreasing fish populations leads to overfishing by commercial operations, which makes it really difficult for indigenous and local groups to get food in the way that they're used to. There's also a higher reliance on westernized fishing methods, like bottom trawling and using really big nets that can damage ecosystems even further. And coral bleaching also damages a lot of species that are crucial to Hawaiian culture in terms of food and other cultural practices.
Yeah, similar to Hawaii, the Great Barrier Reef also faces a lot of community impacts because of ocean acidification and the coral bleaching that happens in result. For example, the reef provides 64,000 jobs for Australia, so that's a lot of people that they're supporting. In addition, it is home to over 1,600 different marine species. So when the reef isn't healthy, it makes it more difficult for all these species to reside in a fruitful place. In addition, the reef protects local communities from storms, waves, and erosions across the 2,300 kilometer span of the Australian shoreline that the reef expands upon.
And the climate change has caused some damage on the social perspective. And the first is that it had to lead the augmentation of the vulnerability of the lowering costs and the corals. And the people will suffer from the typhoon, storm surge, and the tsunami damage. And moreover, the people may change. It will change millions of individuals, especially the poor ones, and they will continue to experience different challenges in terms of loss of control identify and food displacement and migration. And some livelihood and the water security will be damaged too.
Talking about environmental impacts of coral bleaching or the ocean acidifications, one result is that an alarming amount of marine species are experiencing rapidly decreasing numbers, such as shrimps, crabs, reef fish, and sharks. And a second impact is that the loss of coral-reliant species trigger mass tropical cascade and ecosystem collapse.
The ocean acidification also faces economic impacts for communities around coral reefs. For example, many small communities have to spend time and money repairing and replacing damaged coastline homes when coral can no longer protect from flooding during storms. And also, as fish populations decrease, local fishermen have lower access to reliable fishing grounds, and commercial fishing operations take over, which makes it more difficult for small communities that live around reefs. And there are some solutions to this. For example, the Australian and Queensland governments are making policy changes
they have taken action through the Reef 2050 long-term sustainability plan. And in this plan, they promise to work to improve the water's quality surrounding the reef, clear marine debris, grow awareness, reduce erosion, and protect marine life.
There's also a lot of personal changes that people can make in order to help these coral reefs and the ecosystems that rely on them. So one of them is shopping for sustainable and local fisheries, because these fisheries don't rely on big bottom trawling nets that can further damage coral reefs. And then another one is using less air travel, because air travel releases a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, which can increase ocean acidification. Another one, a very direct one, is using respect when interacting with coral in the ocean, like using reef safe sunscreen and not standing on coral and things like that in order to protect the living coral that exists right now. And then the last one is advocating for policy changes in local and national government systems, much like what's happening in Australia. And then below that, we have a couple of diagrams. We do apologize, they're a little bit blurry because we downloaded this into a PDF. But the basic gist of them is, so our first one is a pH diagram, which shows the decrease in, the increase in acidity over time in the oceans. This one's specifically in Hawaii, but this pattern is reflected all over the world. And then our second one kind of has a similar pattern. It shows the decrease of coral cover, which has a direct correlation to the acidity of the oceans. And then our last diagram is, sorry, could you?
Oh, sorry.
You're good. So our last diagram basically shows the monetary value of coral reefs. So when coral reefs are damaged, this is wildly impacted and can really damage the economic systems of local areas.
Cool. And we have all of our references below for all of our information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.